Good day. As you might have known by now, I am in Bangkok for an international conference on philosophy of religion, and therefore won't be able to meet you this week. I will do my best to meet you though on September 15, which is a Wednesday. So that's something that I'd like to be able to do so that I get to meet you also face to face, not just in a pre-recorded way. So before we went on the break, or before in the last discussion last week, we were talking about the Cartesian circle, whether the Cartesian circle is in fact a circle, and let's look at that. What is meant by that? So a more promising solution to the problem of the Cartesian circle is suggested by Descartes' references to necessary truths as revealed by the light of nature. The light of nature is a mysterious intuitive faculty by which the truth of certain kinds of propositions is supposed to be indubitably and infallibly understood. These are the elementary ideas alternatively designated as axioms, simples, first principles, or common notions. Descartes significantly mentions the lumen natural, light of nature, as the unfailing source of his knowledge of the assumptions in his first proof for the existence of God. The solution to the Cartesian circle afforded by Descartes' concept of the light of nature requires that whatever is revealed by the light of nature is clearly and distinctly perceived, but that not all clear and distinct perceptions are indubitably true or epistemically certain as truths revealed by the light of nature is something you have to consider. If the light of nature supports Descartes' proof that God exists and is no deceiver, then he does not need to step up the level of justification from less than epistemic certainty to full epistemic certainty. Nor does Descartes need to reason in a circle by assuming that clear and distinct perceptions are epistemically certain in order to prove that clear and distinct perceptions are epistemically certain. The light of nature, if we can accept its epistemic credentials, shows us a way out of the Cartesian circle. Descartes does not discuss the light of nature in detail, I understand. The concept first appears in the writings of the medieval philosophers Aquinas and even William of Ockham. Descartes introduces the concept in the Meditations, where most of his references to it appears in his Meditation 3 proof that God exists and is no deceiver. In the synopsis of the Meditations, Descartes dissociates the light of nature from any connection with revelations from God or matters of faith when he claims, probably to ease the sensorial concern of the church authorities in Paris, and I quote, "Nor do I, in Meditation 4, examine those matters pertaining to religious faith or to the conduct of life, but only those speculative truths that are known by the aid of the light of reason." No? Of course, the evidence to that is, let's look at that in the synopsis of the Meditations, which you know is present at the beginning of the Meditations. And here's the synopsis, and then he starts talking about it. No? Here, in the fourth meditation, he explains here, no, nor do I examine matters to do with faith or with the conduct of one's life, but only speculative truths known by the help of the natural light. No? light of nature. Indeed, the point of referring to the faculty as a light of nature or natural light is presumably to distinguish it from any supernatural connection. The most important premise, says in Descartes' meditation, 3 proof are explicitly said to be justified by the light of nature. These include the assumption that the cause of an idea must have at least as much formal reality as the idea has objective reality, and of its derivation from the principles ex nihilo nihil fit, together with the claim that God is no deceiver and that the concept of deceit is repugnant to the idea of God. Descartes does not claim that the metaphysical maxim about the formal and objective reality and God's essence as non-deceiver are not justified merely by being clearly and distinctly perceived. He says specifically that these conclusions are justified by the light of nature, suggesting the possibility that the light of nature is a different and prior source of knowledge than clear and distinct perceptions. Truths revealed by the light of nature, even if also clearly and distinctly perceived, are not justified only by virtue of being clear and distinct, but by the light of nature as the faculty of reason. Descartes can no more consider the evil demon hypothesis as calling into question the conclusions of the light of reason than he can accept a basis for maximum skepticism that amounts to abandoning reason like the severely insane. If the light of nature is indubitable, even under the evil demon hypothesis, then the assumptions in Descartes' proof that God exists and is no deceiver needs not presuppose God's vindication of what is clearly and distinctly perceived. Descartes distinguishes knowledge obtained by the light of nature from clear and distinct perception when he indicates that he has a natural inclination to accept clear and distinct perceptions as truthfully representing the world, but that this natural inclination is different from the light of nature. The structure of Descartes' argument in the Meditations indicates that his acceptance of clear and distinct perceptions stand in need of justification, while the natural light is intrinsically, rationally indubitable. Importantly, he also attributes the epistemic certainty of the cogito to the light of nature prior to his proof of the existence and veracity of God. The light of nature, by itself, confers epistemic certainty on the truth it reveals. The mere inclination to accept clear and distinct ideas as representative of reality does not carry epistemic certainty unless or until it can be proven with epistemic certainty that an undeceiving God exists who has creative and sustaining responsibility for our cognition. Descartes' task is to justify clear and distinct ideas as epistemically certain, truthful representations of the real external world. Hence, we can also think of his epistemic project as one of extending the epistemic certainty of truths revealed by the light of nature to clear and distinct perceptions generally. The dubitability of clear and distinct ideas under the demon hypothesis is overcome only when Descartes proves with epistemic certainty that God exists and is no deceiver. It is thus a mistake to hold, as some commentaries have, that the existence of the self or thinking subject is the ultimate egocentric foundation of Descartes' philosophy. Such a suggestion is implausible because Descartes must first be justified in the reasoning by which he rejects the 3 alternative rational grounds for maximum skepticism, and by which he concludes that the ego's existence cannot be doubted as long as and whenever it thinks. He cannot justify these inferences by the appeal to an undeceiving God, because he needs demon-proof reason in order to prove that God exists and is no deceiver. He explicitly claims that the ego's existence is established by surviving the demon hypothesis according to the light of nature. It follows that the light of nature is a prior source of epistemic certainty. The real foundation of Descartes' system is not the ego or cogito sum, but the light of nature as the ultimate indubitable foundation of all epistemic certainty. Since Descartes supposes that any philosophical system worthy of the name must share the same commitment to the light of nature in order to develop or defend any of its principles, it remains meaningful to describe what is distinctively egocentric about his theory of knowledge and how it relates to the cogito sum as the immovable Archimedean point. The assumption of the evil demon hypothesis and the reasoning whereby alternative justifications for maximum skepticism are rejected might be directly justified by the light of nature. What about the deduction of the conclusions from assumptions in Descartes' meditations? Descartes is relatively silent about the epistemic status of logical implication. He maintains that while attending to mathematical demonstrations, the mind can be sure of its clear and distinct perceptions, though the memory of these may later become blurred and doubtful. What does Descartes regard as justifying deductive inference? There are three possibilities, none of which has definitive textual support, but any of which is consistent with the light of nature solution to the Cartesian circle. 1. The truths of logic and validity of logical inference are justified by the light of nature as indubitably self-evident, at least during those times when the mind attends to them. 2. The truths of logic and the validity of logical inference are self-justifying in somewhat the way Aristotle in his Metaphysics, and here the Becker number, 1006a, 11 to 1007a, 20, argues that there need and can be no proof of the law of non-contradiction independently of epistemic certainty of truths revealed by the light of nature. And third, the truths of logic and validity of logical inference are self-justifying in roughly the way that Aristotle describes, and they thereby mediatedly justify the epistemically certain truths of other propositions that are ultimately justified by the light of nature. The attraction of the first justification is that it attributes no special logical status or proposition and inferences, but regards their certainty as deriving from the light of nature as a single faculty by which the mind discerns certain truths from possible falsehood. The advantage of the third justification is that it partially explains what must otherwise remain mysterious about the illumination of truth by reason's natural light. Logical non-contradiction is reasonably well understood, which makes it plausible to suppose that Descartes might have regarded the light of nature as clicking on when the mind detects a contradiction in conceptual analysis, say in the idea of God as a deceiver, or in the juxtaposition of the evil demon hypothesis with the non-existence of the thinking ego. The advantage in 3 is the lack of explanation of how the mind detects such contradictions and omission that might make us go back in yet another vicious justificatory circle to the light of nature as the faculty by which contradictions are distinguished with absolute certainty from non-contradictions. The remaining choice is 2, the second one, which postulates that Descartes has two independent and irreducible certainty principles in relying separately on both logic and the light of nature. In what follows, no commitment to options presented in those three is assumed. The light of nature as the source of absolute certainty in Descartes' argument prior to his proof of the existence of a veracious God can be understood as combining logic and the light of nature with no preference for their dependence or independence. The assumption of Descartes' proof that God exists and is no deceiver are rationally revealed by the light of nature. As such, they do not presuppose the existence of a veracious God for their justification, but can be advanced as Descartes offers them in a non-circular, epistemically certain demonstration supported by the light of nature. Clear and distinct ideas as opposed to truths disclosed by the light of nature are justified as truthful representations of external reality by the existence of a veracious God. The epistemic certainty of the light of nature is thereby extended first to the existence of the thinking subject in the cogito sum, then to the rational existence of the thinker's clear and distinct idea of God as an essentially unified being of absolute perception, then to God's essential veracity, and finally to the epistemically certain truthful representation of the thinker's clear and distinct ideas, thanks to the God-given constitution of the thinker's mode of cognition. There's no need for God's justification of clear and distinct ideas to circle back in support of the premises by which God's existence and veracity are proved. For these assumptions were never meant to be upheld merely as a clear and distinct ideas, but as indubitable revelations of the light of nature. The argument of Meditation 3, interpreted this way, is a very interesting thought to pursue. Because it allows an atheist lacking the theist epistemic certainty of knowledge as science to enjoy what Descartes calls the same awareness of truth. An atheist capable of arriving even at an epistemically uncertain awareness of these truths, nevertheless, unknowingly, has in hand all the elements of an epistemically certain proof that God exists and is no deceiver, by which a stubborn persistence in atheism would be irrational. Descartes believes that his reasoning in his way fulfills the exhortation of the Lateran Council to employ philosophy in the service of religion. As he announces in the prefatory dedicatory letter to the Meditations, Descartes has fused philosophy and theology by providing a non-circular argument to persuade even the atheist of the fundamental truths of religion. Descartes, therefore, is not trapped inside the Cartesian circle. That's the answer. There is an escape that accords with his pronouncement about the proof for the existence of God, as warrants for the truthful representation of reality by clear and distinct ideas. It is moreover a solution that makes sense of Descartes' philosophy as a foundationalist epistemology. The foundational structure of Descartes' system has already been clarified. We can understand it all the more when we recognize how clear and distinct ideas are ultimately led by logic and the light of nature. And that's something we need to pay attention to. The main task to which Descartes dedicates Meditation 3 is to extend the epistemically certain foundations of knowledge from whatever is revealed by the light of nature to clear and distinct perceptions generally. The reliance ultimately on logic or non-contradiction in the light of nature make Descartes' foundationalism distinctively rationalistic. The solution to the Cartesian circle interpreted either as a way out or as an argument to the effect that Descartes avoids circular reasoning in the first place is that the purpose of Descartes' foundational project is to upgrade the epistemic status of all clear and distinct ideas by removing them from the possibility of skepticism that's entailed by the evil demon hypothesis. The non-circularity of Descartes can be clarified further. No? His appeal to the light of nature is is indicated eventually as the foundation of, that's the light of nature, no? The light of nature as the foundation of everything. The light of nature, to indicate its being foundation, we will mark as 0. It is the justificatory bedrock that underlies Descartes' commitment to the cogito in light of the evil demon hypothesis. As such, the light of nature underlies even Descartes' epistemic certainty that a thinking self provides an Archimedean point on which the remaining epistemic certain substructures and superstructure of Cartesian knowledge depends. From the light of nature, which, as I explained a while ago, justifies an a priori matter of conceptual analysis, which is the epistemically certain foundation, I think he will start talking about the conceivability of the evil demon. The light of nature reveals no contradiction in concept, rational basis for doubting clear and distinct ideas, if and only if the evil demon is possible. And then from the evil demon, which we've numbered as 1, we can now look at the second hypothesis. And the second hypothesis is, in fact, the existence of ego or the thinking subject. Light of nature reveals contradiction in hypothesis that evil demon might deceive thinker about the thinker's existence. This, I think, is the nominal epistemic foundation of Descartes. And from the identification of his ego, then we actually recognize the third one, which is the veracity and the existence of a clear and distinct idea of God, discovered in thought as possession of the thinker, whose existence and the existence of those ideas are guaranteed by the existence of the ego. A clear and distinct idea that is not justified here is clarified. Just a minute, please. So from the third, we see another presupposition. And in the discussions, again, we trace back to the light of nature, right? And the fourth principle under the light of nature is actually the principle, the metaphysical principle of ex nihilo nihil fit. No? The cause of an idea must have at least as much formal reality as the idea's objective or mental reality. And this is revealed by the light of nature. It is this understanding that combines with the third to bring about our understanding of our fifth claim. And the fifth claim is, in fact, that God exists. That's the meditation tree proof, right? That God exists. And then another claim that comes from the light of nature, interestingly, and not related on the tree, is actually the claim that God is no deceiver. No, the veracity of God. This is revealed by the light of nature, and it's independent from the number 5 proof. And then when you look at these understanding, uh, the justification of that is drawn from 5 and also 6, no, will bring about the claim of the justification for clear and distinct ideas, and this is the epistemic sub-foundation, no? From 1, 5, and 6, together with suppressed assumptions about the exclusion of the evil demon, we are now able to understand the justification for clear and distinct ideas. And these 7 is the foundation for what will eventually become Cartesian science. So that's very important, no? To capture by now and to understand by now. If this is not clear, please try to review again. In fact, in the 5th meditation, yes, we will jump to the 5th meditation a bit. In the 5th meditation, let me just look for the quote for you. Here. So in the 5th meditation, Descartes summarizes and reiterates the conclusion of meditation three's demonstration of the existence and veracity of God. He extends to all knowledge in his epistemology the same epistemic certainty we expect of mathematics to our knowledge about the existence and veracity of God, and therefore of 2 other intellectual matters, and to all knowledge about the external physical world or corporeal world revealed by proper use of sense perception. He says, certainly I find the idea of him that is of a supremely perfect being in myself, and just as I find the idea of any shape or number. And I clearly and distinctly understand that eternal existence belongs to his nature, just as clearly and distinctly as I understand that the properties I can demonstrate of some shape or number belong in fact to the nature of that shape or number. So that even if not all conclusions I have come to in my meditations over the past few days were true, I would still have to ascribe the same degree of certainty to the existence of God that I up to now have ascribed to mathematical truths. We can read further. Enough, wala na. Naubos yung meditations. So we have now considered an interpretation of Descartes' foundationalist epistemology, according to which the problem of the Cartesian circle is avoided by appealing to the light of nature. The light of nature is a more fundamental rational principle of knowledge than Descartes' defense of the epistemic certainty of clear and distinct ideas. Showing that God exists and is no deceiver is supposed to overcome the evil demon hypothesis in a way that only God, through perfect knowledge, power, and goodness, can do. The light of nature thereby acquires enormous importance in Descartes' system. It is what makes Descartes, as the history of philosophy rightly judges him, a paradigmatically rationalist thinker. What is the light of nature? And what are the implications of solving the problem of the Cartesian circle in Descartes' foundationalism in terms of the light of nature. We can, for what it is worth, say that the light of nature is a faculty of reason, the mind's ability to grasp connections and distinctions and principles that cannot be denied without contradiction. Descartes excludes the light of nature from the principles and abilities of mind that fall under the evil demon's deceptions. This is for good reason, since in order to challenge any part of our presumed knowledge by such a rationale, we need to be able to draw on our reasoning abilities in order to see that this is a possible or conceivable basis for maximum skepticism. If we cannot consider the possibility of doubting everything that can be doubted without including reason and the light of nature, then we have no sound justification for doubting in the first place. This is the only pre-recorded lecture for this week for you, and it's a very important one. However, there is a perusal task. I will include the perusal link in the next page. You have to register, add, and all that I'll ask you is to comment on meditations 4, 5, and 6. No? Meditations 4, 5, and 6. I will discuss meditations 4 and 5 and 6, but you need to have read it at least. And this time, I want you to comment. So if you have no more questions, please click next. But if you didn't understand this lecture, please play it again. Thank you.